like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Visit StogieGeeks.com/Debonaire for a list of retailers who carry Debonaire cigars. Buy some today and get a little more Debonaire.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Stogie. Did you see that wipe? I like the wipe. Did you see that?
That was good.
That was a wipe. That's what they call that. It's a wipe.
I like it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Was that side to side? That's paint the house, right?
Danielson.
Was that house or fence? No, fence was up in his house.
That was the house.
That was the house.
Side to side was the house.
Yes.
Wax the car. Wax on. Wax off. Debonaire Ideal segment for this evening is about draw pokers. That's right. These instruments are not just for extracting information from enemy combatants. They're supposedly supposed to deal with that issue. Now, there is such a thing. I should set the stage for this one. It's called Paul Syndrome. It has been dubbed Paul Syndrome here on the show because inevitably, when someone gives me a cigar or I buy a cigar or someone sends me samples of cigars, I pick the cigar out of the whole bunch. I'm going to go to Nicaragua and, oh my God, another martini. This thing, you stay tuned. Things are going to get really interesting if Paul has 3 martinis.
Mark said you wanted a martini.
Of course Mark would say that.
Who wants a martini?
I'll split one with someone. You can freshen up
We'll
my
split one, yeah, sure.
Yeah. My nipples shirt. How is this my nipples aren't even showing.
He's perky.
Oh, Ed McMahon was in the studio over there, the non-studio, the viewing area, I should say. Now, what was I saying about draw pokers? Oh, Paul Syndrome.
Enemy of silence and Paul Syndrome.
I should go to Nicaragua in the Dominican Republic, and I should be the QA department because I can, out of a batch of thousands of cigars,
You'll find it, yeah.
if I'm gonna smoke that one. That's the one out of that 1,000 that's freaking plugged, right? I mean, essentially, it's too much filler inside of the binder, right? Or it's just not packed or rolled quite right. I mean, there are people that could come on and tell you about the nuances and leaf placement and the rolling method, whether it's bunching versus the entubado method. But basically, I will pick the freaking plugged one out of all of them. So, and I hold up this one. It's kind of now I got this at Mr. Jason on a Smoke Shop, and I do like this set. It actually comes with 2. I don't know how well you can see these. We probably should have taken a picture of them before the show. Maybe if I hold them up in front of my shirt. No.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. There's like a smaller one that is so small I was losing it, so I attached it to the scissors with a carabiner. So there's a smaller one. And now the tip on the smaller one is rough. I'll just pause there for hilarity. The tip is rough to get in there and really poke. And now this one looks more like an ice pick, right? And I really think that when a cigar is plugged, poking it just kind of moves stuff around inside the cigar in hopes that it'll shift around and that it loosens up, which is why I think poking might work, I don't know, maybe 40 to 50% of the time if you're lucky. It depends on what the actual construction issue is. Now, I mentioned leaf placement before, right? So when they're bunching the filler, right, certain leaves will go maybe towards the front, certain leaves towards the back. It's not, all the time, it's not like one leaf that is the exact length of the cigar when they're bunching, right? So where I think the draw poking is effective is if in the bunch, like at a certain spot, like there's a tight spot. And if you poke it through there, I think it moves stuff around so the air can flow better, right? I think if in general there is just too much filler, if you run a poker through it, it's all just going to go back to where it was. Like,
How do you decide where to poke? Just
it's probably trial and error.
it's
got to be.
I did that, and I
sweet spot.
I did that, and I ended up with 3 kids. So I don't know. There was no way we could do this segment with a straight face. Damn it! I start in the middle. I don't know if there's any kind of. There's no science. Again, the whole point of this segment is, first of all, it's Debonaire Ideal, right? Like, it's not really debonair to go to, like, a cigar event and, like, bring your draw poker, right? Because ideally, cigars should not need the draw poker. Like, they should not be tight. But there's nothing more frustrating for those of us who smoke cigars all the time than to have a plugged cigar. So it is one of the things that I do keep in my arsenal. Again, I'd say it's like a 40% success rate in terms of draw poking. And I think that, in my estimation, that probably like a 50-50 split, like when you're going to, a cigar is plugged, like the draw pokers even has a chance of helping you. Like the problem is there's too much filler. So my whole thing was, like the draw poker's kind of stupid, like it's physics, right? Like, yeah, a small percentage of the time I might move stuff around so it draws better, but if the cigar, if there's too much filler and I'm just putting a metal rod inside of the middle of my cigar and taking it out, like what have I done? I've done nothing really to improve the draw of my cigar.
What's the percentage that
Could put stress on the wrapper.
Well, no, but Joe brings up a good point. Rather than actually poking the cigar, sometimes just rolling it around in the filler kind of adjust stuff so that it does get a better airflow.
You insert at a medium pace, or what?
What I do is oh God.
We lost it.
I assess the situation with the stick in my hand. I try to roll the cigar around to find out if it's plugged, like either on the outside, because sometimes a plug could be.
You kind of massage.
Yeah, sometimes a plug could be like a vein of the leaf.
And you feel for the lumps.
Right, and if it's on the outside, right, I try to massage it to get it expand but you got to be
Watching you do that's kind of turning me on right now, Joe. I'm not gonna lie.
No, you got to be very gentle, right? You got to be very gentle, and then do that. Sometimes that works. The poker, I mean,
That's extreme.
That's extreme.
No, because there have been sometimes where if it just catches right, you can start to pull it out, and then you can see some of the filler come out.
Well, so
then you got to be careful about, you just don't yank it out. You know what I mean? So you have to
Feather it. Find the sweet spot. Feather it.
like 10% of the time. Hold on. Let me back up for a second. If you're going to roll the cigar around in your fingers like that, right, and trying to loosen it up, like gentle, okay. You go any more than gentle, like you risk the wrapper cracking
for sure. Yep.
and causing issues. If you're going to poke the cigar, now you're risking basically ruining the entire cigar experience. Like I found, like with Cuban cigars, for example, where I'm just resorting to poking it, and then I get it to open up, but I'm like, I've poked it like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, it's never the same. I guess some cigars are never the same after being poked multiple times, I guess you could say. It does.
But if it requires a little extra TLC, and you're giving it the honest effort.
I don't know. If I take a cigar that's plugged and I'm trying to it's just not. It's not going to smoke the same.
When's your time limit threshold? Because I'm sure yours would be a longer threshold than mine.
No, it depends on the cigar.
Sure, yeah, that's a good point.
So
too.
Mark and I were next door, and this guy that was in Havana Club was very nice. He had a legitimate question, and Brenda was like, this is Paul. He does the Stogie Geeks show, and he was like, dude, I'm really I don't know if these are real or not. Cohiba Esplendidos, which, by the way, I've had a 0% success rate in smoking a Cohiba Esplendido. Every time I smoke them, they're plugged. As was the case with this time. Because I'm like, dude, it looks legit. The band looks legit. And to be honest with you, I could tell you 100% if I smoke. I'm not, you don't have to give me one. Don't give me one. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm like, but if I smoke it, I could tell you with near 100% accuracy, like if it's a Cuban or not Cuban. I mean, those of us that have been smoking cigars for a while, that have had Cubans and non-Cubans, since Cuban cigars come from all the same seed, from all the same farms, from the same country, and they're puros, we can determine the difference, right? And he's like, no, I want you to now, I happen to have a Cuban cigar with me, and I'm like, no, dude, I know this one is legit. Like, if you're going to give me one, I'm going to give you one in return. Like, don't just give me one so I can tell you if they're fake or not. And I smoked it. I'm like, yeah, dude, this is like a legit Cuban. And it was. And it tasted awesome.
But it was plugged.
It was plugged. And the one that Mark got, probably because I touched it, that was plugged too. So Mark and I take him back to the studio, and we're like I really wanted to smoke. No.
One time.
And no matter how much we poked it, it wouldn't smoke. And so that one I tried really hard to answer your question. Like cigars that like I know I don't have any in my humidor. I'm probably not going to come across a Cohiba Esplendido for some time.
Try to save it.
Unless my friend Bob goes online and buys them illegally, right? Like, and so I tried to save it. And even at that, neither of us made it through the first third of that cigar.
Honest effort. That's all you can do.
That's it.
No.
Mark, you there? Yeah, Mark,
Yes.
I'm telling stories about you. Now you're there.
No. I remember you using the pliers to pull out the.
Yeah.
Pliers.
Jesus.
Dude, I'm dedicated. If it's a cigar
Take
I
it
really
easy,
want
man.
to smoke. So here's the thing. It was one that my friend Walt was actually telling me about. And he had a draw poker, and it had like almost like a hook on it. So it was like a metal stake like this one, right? Except it had like a couple of notches in it, right? And so when you put the draw poker in, as you pull it out, those little notches actually would rake some tobacco out. And I'm like, well, now that makes sense. Like, if a cigar is plugged, there's too much tobacco inside, so you're going to want to obviously remove some tobacco in order to get it to smoke. And I have not been able to find that draw poker. If anyone knows where that draw poker is, I'd give it a chance. Again, a draw poker being something you shouldn't. The real reason that we have so many floating in the studios, we're reviewing cigars. I kind of want to make it smoke. If it's a handmade product, there are going to be issues. I get that. It's not something we should have to use on a regular basis, unless you're me and you have Paul syndrome. So I want the one that takes tobacco out. So me, bright idea, as I'm smoking cigars, I'm like, well, tobacco needs to come out. I'm like, I can go on the foot of the cigar, and if you look at all the bunch tobacco in there, like this one I can kind of see, like one of the leaves in the bunch might have a stem on it. Now, there's some debate. Some people say stems shouldn't exist in a cigar. Other people say stems are part of a cigar. Like all tobacco leaves have stems. I can see both sides of it. Like, if the stem is just removed like by itself and it's gigantic, probably not something that should have been in there, because the roller, not the rollers, but in the process, they do remove the stems from the leaf. Some of the smaller stems still remain. And again, I'm not the world's foremost expert on this. I'm just going by what people have told me over the years, right? But what I would do if a cigar was plugged, I'm like, maybe I can find a stem to pull out of there, right? And that'll help the draw, because now I'm removing a whole bunch of tobacco. Now, I've done that with needle nose pliers. I'm like, I think that's the stem. And I'll take it.
How do you carry all these items? You have
I do.
a small little kit, like a burglar's kit or something?
Like a smoking area. My smoking area at home was my workshop. And that's where I'm like, I got plenty of tools in my workshop. Like, I'll rip that stem out.
When I first saw that ice pick, I thought it was
It does look like an ice
the
pick.
murder weapon segment. I thought we were going there. You know,
It is. But now the thing with all right, so I have removed stems. I've talked about it in the show in the past. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. Again, it's not a very high degree of success I have with that, and not something you should have to do to premium handmade cigars. But my issue with this draw poker is it works well if there is like one spot in the cigar where you can tell, like, firmness-wise, like it's good, except for this like one spot. If you need to reset spot, this one's good. However, it's kind of thick. In other words, when you got filler and then binder and then wrapper, if you stick this in the middle of the cigar, and I'm hitting my microphone with it, if you stick this in the middle of the cigar, obviously everything else around it is going to expand. You risk cracking the wrapper. And with a cigar that's already overpacked, that could be problematic. So that's my issue with this larger one, which I'm going to put down before I jab myself with it, which is why I like the smaller one, because this one is the same thickness throughout. That one kind of tapers quite a bit, actually. So that I actually, in this kit, and these two come together, I like the smaller one better. And probably my
finesse.
top choice would be the one from my friend Walt, which I mentioned before, which kind of has those notches in it, which actually removes tobacco. So I don't. Do you guys poke? Do you do draw poking? Do you poke? Do you poke, Joe? Tell me about your poking.
I try and power through, but that's not the most.
How many kids
intelligent.
you have as a result of poking?
We have two.
Okay, there you go.
But,
So you try and power through it? Is that what you do when you get a plugged one?
I try and power through. I'm new to the game, a couple of years in, but have come across it. I don't have the fancy burglar kit tools that you possess at the time, but I like to try it, to be honest. Next one I come across,
Now, some people will get these Zycar scissors, And there's a little tool on here on these Zycar scissors. And some people think it's a draw poker. I don't know how well you can see that. See like the little piece sticking up right there on these Zycar scissors. That's not a draw poker. That's actually a bleeder for the lighter. It is not a draw poker. I've asked some people, I'm like, hey, do you got a draw poker? And they whip this thing out. I'm like, new. If the bunching, like if there's a spot really towards the foot, this might reach it. Essentially what I'm saying is it's not long enough. You guys can snicker and laugh and giggity.
I'm half Irish,
Quagmire.
so I get it.
Quagmire giggity. It is not a draw poker. And some people will try and use this to open up the cigar. It's probably not going to work. You need something more like a proper draw poker. I tell you what, though, draw pokers, like when I sometimes keep them here on set, like cigar manufacturers are very, very nervous about the draw poker. They're like, good Lord, I hope he doesn't need to use that on my cigar on the show.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Excuse me while I ram this into the cigar unnaturally.
Brought to you by.
It's just, and again, going back to this being a Debonaire ideal, it's just not something that you should have to do to your cigar, like ever. Unfortunately, there are cigars, many of them Cubans, that do require this. It's actually funny. The guy that had it's not funny. I think it's kind of sad. The guy that had the Cohiba Cubans was, I bought boxes of Cuban cigars, and he's like, I actually went out and bought a draw poker to accompany my box of Cuban cigars to try and loosen up the draw.
Wow.
It's a numbers game.
I wish I just kind of like, dude, like you can buy like so many other non-Cuban cigars like these cigars we're smoking right now. Which, speaking of, before we cut to the next segment, how is the La Historia, what did I call this one? The El Senador? El Senador. How is this cigar doing?
Box Willie, for sure. It's awesome.
Consistent.
Yep,
That's how I had
consistent.
the E3. It's box
Consistent.
worthy.
That lingering off the palate I was getting did fade away as I get towards the end, but it's not harsh at all. I use the scissors to cut it. The Zycar scissors you have.
No relay, no touch up. It's tailor-made, ready to go.
Yeah. I like
Yeah,
it.
burns great.
But is it golfable?
Golfable. Joe loves the golfable.
Yeah, I think it's golfable. I think it's golfable. It's
the Mexican wrapper's pretty toothy.
It's got a it's not really oily, but you can feel something like it's got a little bit of
the San Andreas wrappers are usually
the coating
pretty,
on it.
Golfable.
Yeah, this particular one, because of the
You
loose,
can throw it on the ground before you.
because of the loose draw, there's not a lot of stress on the wrapper.
Yes.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, that's a good
so,
point.
which that's not how I judge a golfable cigar, but it's portable. Could you fish with this?
I'm not a fisherman.
Is it fishing?
That's,
Okay,
that's
hold on.
Paul's forte, but
Could you fish with this?
I could fish with this.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't put this on the hook and use it.
No,
as
I wouldn't
bait.
use it as bait. I'm
Not
saying
fish
like
with
you would have.
I
it in
could
your
smoke
mouth,
it
put
while I
down.
was fishing.
Yeah.
Yes, I could.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely golfable. Good smoke. I'm digging really towards the end, and it's mixing amazing with this dual combination I have here.
You've got an old fashioned and a dirty martini.
touch them all.
Yeah, and I've been alternating, but it's like it's like I take a sip of the martini and I'm like, ooh, wow, that's good, and then I take a sip of the old fashioned, oh, that's good too.
And they're on two total opposite ends of the flavors. I mean, old fashioned is sweet, dirty martini very salty.
It's like
So it's probably a pretty good.
It's like a barber pole effect, or you know what I mean? It's only on
like the wrapper. Yeah, yeah. You just need a barber pole wrapper cigar to go with your double drink.
Yeah, you can
Maybe
mix
that's
and
the
match
thing.
it. But yeah, no, it's a great smoke, and like I said, it lasts 2 segments.
What would be your
know.
rating on the cigar, Joe D?
Boxworthy. Fingertip burner. Smooth draw. I wouldn't say loose because going back to the golfable experience, you can set it down and you're not going to worry about it falling out on you.
It doesn't get hot though.
No.
Like, it's got a loose
Absolutely
draw.
not.
A lot of times what you find is a cigar that's underfilled. Now we're going the opposite end of the draw poker spectrum, right? Cigar that's underfilled will burn too hot and get harsh. This one did not do that for me. The draw was perfect, loose, but it didn't burn hot.
I tend to smoke a little bit faster, and it's perfect. I'm not burning up over here. I'm enjoying it right to the end.
Yeah, that's good smoke for sure.
Nice. Alrighty. That concludes our draw poker segment. We didn't talk about cards. Maybe next time we'll talk about actual poker, actual draw poker, You're not the one using your cigar, but actual cards.
Now we talk my language.
There you go.
They're my wheelhouse.
There you go.
Is it pokerable? Is that the word you use? Like,
I would.
You
There
play
you go.
poker with it, it's pokerable.
it's
I would
pokerable.
fishable, it's golfable,
It's
pokerable.
pokerable.
EP Carrillo, La Historia, as well as full coverage of draw pokers. Coming up next, Stogies of the Week. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.